In this video, we are going to build the skeleton and decoration of our app. So to get started, we're going to go back to the jQuery mobile chapter and use the last file where we had 3 pages. So our app components are going to go in the home page. Okay, so I'm going to copy this code and then we're going to create a new file or a new folder inside our websites folder, and let's call it Speed Reader App. Okay. And let's open this folder using brackets. Now let's create a new file there and call it index.html. And let's paste our code there. Okay. So let's change the title to Speed Reader App. Okay, and also let's delete the script content that we had at the end. We don't need that for now. Okay, and let's go for live preview. Okay, so we don't see the image there. Okay, so let's just place the image in our project folder. Okay. Now let's refresh. Okay, and that's better. Okay. Now let's empty the contents of page number 1. Which is there. Okay. And now we are ready to start loading components to our homepage. So let's have a quick look at the final app. Okay, so that's how it looks like. Okay, so first of all, you can notice that the navbar is placed in the footer rather than the header. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that first. So I'm just going to copy the navbar from the header and place it in the footer. Okay, let's save and refresh. Okay, and let's do that to the other pages as well. Okay, so page 2. That's our navbar, and let's just copy it and place it in the footer. And let's do the same for page 3. Okay, let's save and refresh. Okay, and that's better. All right. Now let's add a background image to our app. So I'm going to create a CSS file where we're going to place all our styling. I'm going to call it index.css. And let's link our HTML file to the styling file. So we're going to go to the head section and let's remove this style element. okay, and create a link element and give it a relationship style sheet, okay, and an href go into the CSS file. Okay, now let's go to the CSS file. So to add a background picture to our page, we are going to use the ID of the page, which is page 1. Okay, so we're adding and we're going to use the background property. Okay, so first of all, let's get a free picture. So you can use the stocks.im websites to get some free pictures. Okay, so the picture I'm using is the following one. Okay, so I'm going to use that URL in the URL function. Okay, otherwise we can just download the image, okay, and link the file to the image. Okay, but for now I'm going to use the URL. So then we are going to center our image and change its dimensions. So first of all, to center it, we're going to use the background position property. And set that to center and center. Okay. And then we are going to fix the image so that if we scroll down or scroll up, the image doesn't move. So as we've done before, the property to use is background attachment, and we're going to set that to fixed. Okay. And finally, for the size of the image, when we're using jQuery Mobile, it's better to set the background size property to 100% and 100%. Okay, so we're not using the cover value, and rather than doing that, we are setting the horizontal and vertical scaling to 100% and 100%. Okay. All right. So for now, let's add a header to our page. So we're going to go to the index.html file, go in the content of page 1, okay, and create a header. So that's going to be a div, and let's give it a class header that we're going to use for styling. So we're going to place a heading and a paragraph. Okay. All right. So now let's style our header element. So we're going to go to our styling sheet. So let's access the element using the header class. Okay, so we can change the color and set the color to all the page elements to a white color, and we can do that straight in the page, okay, by setting the color attribute to a white color. Okay, that looks better. Now let's center our text. So we'll use the text align property that we can set to center. Since we want all the other elements to be centered later on, we can just apply this property to the body elements rather than the header class. Okay, so we're just going to add text align center. Okay. All right. Now let's move to the other HTML elements. So if we look at our final app, if we click on the Start Reading button without having enough inputs, we're going to have an error message. So let's create this error message first, right after the title. So that's going to be a div, and let's give it an ID error. And let's copy this text inside. Okay. Let's add some comments there. So we're looking there as the title. Okay, and then the error message. Okay. Now let's style our error message. So let's go to the styling sheet. So we're going to access the elements using its ID, which is error. So first of all, let's give it a background color. Let's go for this color there. So let's pick it using the color picker. All right. And also let's give it a width that is half the width of the screen. Okay, so we can set the width property using a percentage. Okay, and that's going to be relative to the containing elements. In our case, the page element. Okay, now let's center our elements using the margin property. So we're going to set that to 20 pixels for the top and bottom sides, and then auto for the left and right sides to have it centered. And finally, let's increase the font size. I'm going to go for 20 pixels. Okay. You will notice that we're using a different font family in our final app. So that's the Lobster font family, which is a Google font. So we're going to go to the page element and set the font family of the whole page to Lobster, and as a fallback, serif. Now we need to go to the Google Fonts website and get the CSS link for that font family. So let's look for it. Okay, so here it is. So I'm going to click on Quick Use and then copy the link from there. And let's place the link inside our index.html file in the head elements. Okay, and now we can see our new font family there. Alright. We will hide the error message later using jQuery on page load. So for now, let's move to the next element, which is the text input. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place the text input as well as this button and other buttons inside a div. Okay, so the other buttons are these ones. Okay, the new, resume, and the pause button. So I'm going to place them inside one div and give it an ID inputs. So let's create this div right after the error message. So let's have a comment there saying user inputs. Okay, and let's create our div of ID inputs. Okay, and let's start with the text area. Okay, our text area there. So let's give it an ID, user input, and let's have a look first. Okay, so if we save and refresh the page, it's supposed to take the whole width of the page. Okay,